Sorry, everybody. Brent here joining a little late. I'll just be available in case Commissioner needs any questions answered.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Great. Well, hello, everybody. Steve Grove here, Commissioner of Deed. Thrilled today to be holding this press conference to announce the winners of our Main Street Economic Revitalization program. This is one of the bigger programs that came out of the 2021 legislative session after a lot of negotiation with the legislature and the governor's office. And we're just really thrilled today to be announcing the first round of the winners of this program. Just some context on this program. It's focused on business corridors and clusters of businesses. We know that main streets, that business corridors, that commercial sectors are really vital to Minnesota's economic future. And so many of them suffered over the last couple of years, whether it was from just the overall stress of the pandemic and the lack of foot traffic and the need for closures to mitigate the spread of the virus, or whether it was due to the events following the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, and the civil unrest that followed from there. We know many commercial sectors of our state did suffer. And so the legislature and the governor and our team here at Deed spent a lot of time navigating the best way to get funding into these corridors to help them rebuild. And the result was this program. It is $80 million total. The first round we're announcing today, as I mentioned before. Second round will come next year. So we are announcing the first half of that funding, around $40 million. To 8 different partners. You'll hear from some of them in just a moment. We're pleased to have them with us on the call today. This money will be used in turn by these partners to fund out to businesses, nonprofits, developers, others who are going to do the work themselves of rebuilding, of revitalizing these commercial sectors. They can do that through a couple different mechanisms. There are grants that they can give out when the partner has matching funds up to 30%. Those grants are up to $750,000. And they can also use a guaranteed loan vehicle as well, up to $2 million for eligible recipients who want to take a bank loan and have that guaranteed through this partnership as well. And any corridor that was able to demonstrate harm in the events that have taken place since March 15th of 2020 were eligible for the program. We really did focus on corridors, on clusters, on groupings of businesses, on areas where if you can help more than one business in a sector, that it kind of force multiplies, and you see a lot better effect in that neighborhood given the number of businesses you're helping all at one time. So we have a number of partners here today to share just a little bit about their projects and what they're doing. I will read out here just for the record and for all of us, the partners who won and the amount of money that they received. And then we'll hear from some of our partners directly. So winning the awards in this first round were the African Career Education and Resource Incorporated in Brooklyn Center, which received a $312,000 grant. The Destination Medical Center Economic Development Agency in Rochester, which received a $3.12 million grant. The Duluth Local Initiative Support Corporation in Duluth, which received a $1.235 million grant. The Heartland Lakes Development Commission in Park Rapids, which received a $208,000 grant. The Minneapolis Foundation in Minneapolis, which received a $20.8 million grant. The St. Paul, Minnesota Foundation in St. Paul, which received an $8.96 million grant. The Southwest Initiative Foundation in Hutchinson, which received a $2.23 million grant. And the Virginia Community Foundation in Virginia, which received a $1.794 million grant. So as you can see, really a broad cross-section of partners who pulled in grant dollars. This is a statewide program. The way that the statute reads, we are required to ensure that no more than one region of the state gets more than 65% of the total $80 million that's available. But that's over the life of the entire $80 million program. So we will be sure to hit those numbers. What that essentially means is the most that either the Metro could receive or Greater Minnesota could receive would be 65% of the total money allocated for the program. So we are thrilled to have received so many great applications for this really unique program to help grow Minnesota's economy. And to tell you more about it, we're going to have a couple of our partners who won just share a little bit of detail on how they're planning to use this money to rebuild their communities. And we will start with the Minneapolis Foundation and CEO R.T. Ryback. R.T., over to you.
Thanks so much, Stephen. We're so deeply appreciative of this work, and it's Deed and the governor and the legislature standing up with the heroic entrepreneurs who have been adding vitality to our cultural corridors in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all across the state. Those heroic entrepreneurs have stayed strong in spite of incredible obstacles. Certainly COVID, the destruction after the murder of George Floyd created enormous challenges for somebody trying to keep their business open. This grant from the state is going to be extremely important. It's also important, the decisions about the criteria for that grant, the guidelines for those are going to be determined at a community level. This grant will come through the Minneapolis Foundation and through a partnership we formed with LISC, Twin Cities, and Propel nonprofits. But the decisions about how those dollars will be allocated will be at a community level. This is a very unique partnership. It puts together our three organizations, Propel, LISC, and the Minneapolis Foundation, to have our scale be able to be used to make getting this grant affordable for these organizations, but it puts decision-making where it belongs, at the grassroots level. This is a huge step, but it's not the only one. We've been raising money and allocating those dollars since immediately after COVID began and the destruction. But now we're going to go back out and use this great step from the state to raise more private and philanthropic dollars. We want to deeply thank the state for this work and say that it's one more step in the rebuilding that these historic and incredibly important entrepreneurs deserve.
Well, thank you, RT, and to the foundation for a great application. We'll turn next to Bahua Hoffman from the St. Paul, Minnesota Foundation. Bahua, over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I want to echo what RT mentioned. Thank you to you for your leadership, Commissioner. Thank you to the governor, the legislature, and the many partners who we know came together to make this program possible. At the St. Paul, Minnesota Foundation, what we articulated in our application to this program was that we were going to implement strategies to ensure an equitable process that eliminates barriers to inclusion for diverse groups that often experience challenges to accessing financial resources. So we will be centering projects led by and serving Black, Indigenous, Asian, Latino, New Americans, immigrants, refugees, community members, people with disability, LGBTQI communities, veterans, low income, and other represented groups. So these groups will be given first priority through our to-be designed grant program that we hope to roll out at the end of this year with grant dollars going out next year. Of course, all of this is still in to be designed, but we're really excited to be part of the 8 that have been awarded in this first round. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Bahua. We're very excited to see that money go to great use in St. Paul. And I think next we will turn over to Diana Anderson of the Southwest Initiative Foundation. Diana.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I just want to echo our sincere gratitude to you and your team at DEED all along the way as we've responded to the pandemic. You have been an incredible partner, bringing resources that allowed us to respond quickly to the pandemic, and also to our legislators for crafting this program in a way that really helps communities across the state reimagine their main streets. So Southwest Initiative Foundation is a regional community foundation serving the 18 counties and 2 Native nations of Southwest Minnesota. And that includes 280,000 people living in and around 156 communities, so very rural. Our rural main streets have always been the center of community life, hubs of economic vitality, civic engagement, and social belonging. And in recent years, new immigrant entrepreneurs have opened retail stores and restaurants that have really brought new energy to many of our downtown corridors. But the pandemic delivered a blow unlike anything that we've seen since the farm crisis of the 1980s. And so supports like the small business relief programs through DEED early on allowed many to keep their doors open. And now these communities are really looking to the future and imagining something better for their main streets, from multifamily housing to multicultural business hubs to some desperately needed health and safety repairs. These rural communities are coming together in the way they always do in times of crisis to work collectively across multiple sectors to rise up to whatever challenges they face. And so Southwest Initiative Foundation is just incredibly honored to partner with DEED on bringing these amazing resources to 3 communities in our region, Worthington, Litchfield, and Granite Falls.
Well, thank you, Diana, and thank you for a wonderful and thoughtful application. Can't wait to see that money get out the door. Next, we will turn it to Rochester and Patrick Sieb, the Executive Director of the Destination Medical Center. Patrick.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and I will echo the comments of the previous speakers and acknowledge your leadership and the team from DEED, and certainly the governor and Minnesota State Legislature. The real winners in this are the local businesses that are going to have access to these new tools and resources. They have, in our community, they have responded with innovation and collaboration and determination, but they are very stretched. And in our community, home to the #1 healthcare provider in the country, and a workforce, a stable workforce, our community has been rocked in terms of loss of medical tourism, loss of downtown employees, and but we have responded. This community has responded, and it's responded because they believe in their future, they're optimistic, and because of the many tools that have been developed and deployed through DEED and through other agencies. We think of the role the governor and DEED around sort of the twin approach to addressing the pandemic, both through public health mechanisms and through economic strategies. And we see this, you might call it the economic booster shot that is needed here right at this right moment, at this very moment. I want to say one other thing, and I want to acknowledge our partners at the city. Cindy Steinhauser is on this call. The mayor has been quite involved, as well as 12 other community partners in assembling this application. But I want you to appreciate that it dovetails with much of the other work going on in our community, particularly around our work with BIPOC communities, our work with really finding opportunities for those who have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And there is an initiative going on in Rochester led by the mayor and by Cindy in applying to the Bloomberg Foundation, a Mayor's Innovation Grant that really is around BIPOC women career pathways into the construction trades and construction industry. And we see this support from this program, again, echoing and reflecting the commitment Rochester is making to prosperity for all in our community. So thank you for your leadership, and I really am proud to be a part of this group of organizations across the state that are with you here today.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and I think we're all hearing some similar themes across these leaders of the kinds of focus they're taking with their programs, and really this idea of helping those who've been hurt the hardest over the events of the last 2 years. So really appreciate that, Patrick. And I think last we'll turn over to Pam Kramer, who is the Executive Director of the Duluth Local Initiative Support Center, or LISC. Pam, over to you. Oh, Pam, I think you might be on mute. I'm sorry. There we go.
Thank you. That helps. Well, on behalf of LISC Duluth and our community, we thank DEED for the Main Street Economic Revitalization Award of over $1.2 million. The Minnesota Main Street Grant will aid in the recovery of two very important Duluth corridors, which have suffered heavy job and revenue losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It will help to seed reinvestment in our downtown Hillside neighborhood and assist in the implementation of a recovery strategy, which is very much needed for the highly skilled jobs that were lost in Duluth's aviation corridor. This is a partnership effort, and LISC is very much looking forward to working with these neighborhoods and working with the City of Duluth, the Duluth Economic Development Authority, the Duluth Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Downtown Council, and many nonprofit organizations and community-based businesses and neighborhood partners involved in this. They are all instrumental in the implementation of this grant, and we're very much very excited that we were selected as one of 8 for this tremendous award, and look forward to moving forward together. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Pam, and to RT, Pahua, Diana, Patrick, and Pam. Just appreciate really fantastic applications and really a lot of work you're committing to moving forward to put these taxpayer dollars to good use. So we're grateful for that. And And we're also grateful to the African Career and Education Resource Center, the Heartland Lakes Development Commission, and the Virginia Community Foundation as well, who, as I mentioned before, also received these grants. So what happens next is these partners, with the programs they've just described to you, will move forward with the great work of disseminating this money to projects and to businesses, nonprofits, developers, those in their defined corridors who are going to use this funding to rebuild and regrow their economies. And really the biggest factors at play in both our evaluation of their applications and their work is going to be focused on how much they can increase their tax base by and the economic impact to those who need it most. And so just excited to see this money kick into gear. For those who applied and did not receive grants this round, there is a round 2, and it is open to anyone. March of 2022 is roughly when we'll open that round for this next $40 million. So I think with that, we'll see if there's any questions from those who've joined us. And Rita, I'll turn it over to you to moderate any questions that are coming in.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And just reminding members of the media, if you have questions, if you could raise your hand or type your question in chat. We'll give it a few seconds here. Any media questions?
Looks like Jeremy has a question.
Jeremy? Yep.
Good morning. How are you? I just have a question for Commissioner Grove. You mentioned round 2 is open to anyone and will be in March of 2022. You said something about $40 million. That's how much the budget is?
Yeah, that's right, Jeremy. The total program is $80 million, and we were capped at only doing half in this first round, which I think is a good thing. I will say the application for this was pretty complex. I mean, the number of financial vehicles these partners can use, the need to look at full corridors for development took a lot of work. I think everyone here would tell you they put a lot of energy into these applications. So those who were able to move quickly here, obviously, and produce great applications are winning some of that money. But I think that having a second round and giving some time for others to either refine or develop their applications is a really good thing. So that'll happen in March, another $40 million. And, you know, we obviously always want to move as quickly as we can and as thoughtfully as we can with these dollars. They're important. We want to be moving into the next chapter of our economy coming out of COVID, and I think this money's going to help us do it.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. Any other media questions? If you could just raise your hand.
I might add, just as you think about round 2 and those who are eligible for these funds, I mean, you can kind of get a picture from seeing the partners here, but it's community development financial institutions, it's community development corporations, it's foundations, it's, again, these organizations that then can turn around and put that money to great use.
Okay, and it looks like we have a question from Nina Moyney. Nina, go ahead.
Oh, hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry. I have sort of a logistical question that I had posted in the chat, just if someone could just take a look, and sorry to take up time on that, but I was just hoping to get the names and spellings for everybody in the audio afterward. But I also had a question just on the timeline here. I heard some folks talking about beginning to sort of disseminate some of the grants early next year, you know, but as the months carry on during the pandemic, I just wondered if you could give an idea of that, because I know that in the past, like after there was a lot of civil unrest, one of the issues that people felt was that there wasn't like a lot of organization around where the money was going. So I'm wondering if giving these massive chunks out to less organizations helps to make sure that it gets into the community's hands more quickly. Thanks.
I might let some of our speakers answer that. Yeah, Patrick, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner and Nina. I think excellent question. I mean, as part of the application process, I think DEED rightfully asked, what are your mechanisms that you will have in place to quickly deploy and measure the success? And I think that's the level of accountability and transparency that's expected. And I think that was a really important consideration. And for our own organization, we can lean on mechanisms that we have in place and strategies and kind of the muscle we have in place around that kind of work. And so I think our goal is to have the first round of applications and like RT Ryback mentioned with respect to the Minneapolis Foundation, we'll use the same kind of strategy where we will actually turn to our community to invite submittals, and we will respond to that. And we expect to get that first round going yet this calendar year, because I think that's the expectation of the governor and the legislature, that we move quickly and show progress and show success as soon as possible. So excellent question, Nina, and that's the direction we're going to go.
Anybody else want to reflect on next steps and timing, or are we all still kind of putting that together as we construct our programs?
Well, I would just add that in Southwest Minnesota, we were able to connect with 3 communities who were already in the process of thinking about what their downtown corridors could look like. And so several especially had already done a lot of work in advance. So we expect that those resources may be able to move out fairly quickly into communities. I think there's a continuum that some are much further ahead than others, but I anticipate that in our rural communities, those resources will come out quite quickly.
But I also Nina, the question I think is a really good one, and it touches on this idea. In this period of time, we've needed immediate responses, but we've also needed planful, community-based responses, and those don't happen on the same clock. So immediately when COVID hit and then accelerated after the destruction following George Floyd's murder, we and others were on the ground. Joanne Stately from our team, who's on this call, Puhula from St. Paul, and United Way were part of a really early grant that was going out to address some of those needs. Our One Minneapolis Fund has been working ongoing on this. And we also have a fund of private dollars, Restore, Rebuild, Reimagine Fund. And about $3 million of that has already been allocated. Along with that, community organizations and other nonprofits, including our partner LIFT, have been doing huge lifts. What this allows us to do is to really make sure that we're deeply engaged with the community partners who know this work best. That will not be as fast as us being able to get a check into an organization and getting it out. So immediately now, we're going to use this to leverage more private dollars so that Restore, Rebuild, Reimagine Fund continues to get deployed. I think the other point that's really important is that this has really enabled us to address that question you had about getting a strategy that's overall aligned. Doing this application, there were about to be several different ones coming from Minneapolis. And we were able to say, hey, let's all get together, let's create unified community tables, let's have one approach. So this not only will help us with this 20 million, but with the other dollars that come forward. The total destruction that's not insured in Minneapolis and St. Paul is topping $200 million. And so we're going to have to be at this for a long time. This grant is not only a huge step toward that, but it really helped us build a much deeper partnership. It's going to be rocky, communities are, but that's why we are working to engage them.
Yeah, great points, RT. Let's go to the Senior VP for Community Impact, Pua Hoffman over at St. Paul Foundation.
Thanks, Commissioner Grove. And RT is exactly right. And I think all of us here in the community would love to deploy these funds as quickly as possible. And we intend to do that. But I think that the piece that RT mentioned, and I want to underscore, is often some communities are left out because of the process that we run. And so in order to run an equitable process, we want to make sure we are doing some deep listening and working with community on what that process should look like so that it is accessible. So for example, we are going to be partnering with organizations to help us translate some of the application material. That's going to take time, right? And so I think it is both wanting to get the money out, but really saying, who are those in our community who are in these affected corridors that maybe historically, traditionally have not been able to access these dollars because of the processes that we have had in place. And I think we are willing, and I think all of us on the phone here on this meeting want to make sure that we are being responsive. And so that will take time. So I think there's a reason behind it. I mentioned 2022 just because we're sitting here at October 15th, 14th already, and we're going into probably the hardest time of the year to engage community. There's a lot going on there, the holidays. And so I was just being conservative with that date, but of course we all want to push those dollars out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thanks, Bahua. You highlight well that tension between speed and inclusivity that needs to be balanced by every organization. I see Scott from the Southwest Initiative Foundation raise his hand. Scott, you want to share some thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Grove. And I just want to echo and applaud the leadership that the legislature put forth who crafted this. And Commissioner, your team at DEED, I think the ability to have the comprehensive approach with both the loan guarantees and the leveraged grants was demonstrated that that's what was needed in 2020 between the three key programs put out at DEED, from the deferred and forgivable loans to the guarantees to the relief grants. So we're beyond grateful that it's a two-pronged strategy now, and that we can put the right capital in the right hands to do the things that people need to recover. So I think I just want to applaud the comprehensive approach here.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. And I should mention, maybe I should mention at the top, we're very grateful in particular to the chairs of the Job Committee, Representative Mahmoud Noor and Eric Pratt, the senator down in Shakopee. They were instrumental in putting this together and just great partners in this initiative. So really, really grateful for their leadership. Pam, you wanted to share a thought?
I just wanted to share from the Duluth list standpoint, this is really building on work that we have been doing with the Hillside neighborhood, especially for many years. And I think many people may be familiar with the revitalization and reinvestment that's taken place in our Lincoln Park neighborhood. We're really looking at how do we take this program and help also move forward with that revitalization and community involvement and engagement, broadening it to all sectors of the community to address what's been very difficult on our downtown and Hillside neighborhood. But at the same time, we're bringing together the health district partnerships that we have, the neighborhood partnerships. We have a group called the Wealth Entrepreneurship and Economic Sustainability Group, WEAS Group, that's looking at job opportunities and employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. So there's a lot of players that we're going to be able to bring together, and we're very, very grateful for this investment in Duluth.
Thank you, Pam. I know we're coming up on time. I want to see, are there any other members of the press who have a question they wanted to chat or raise their hands? Okay, well, any final comments from any of our award winners here today?
Just thank you again.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, we are very fortunate in this state to have leaders such as these who really stepped up with these applications and with their work, both of this program, but let's face it, in many other programs too, to really help our state recover from a very challenging time. And this next chapter of Minnesota economy is critical. We've got to get it right for those hardest hit by COVID. And most often that is folks in communities that are underrepresented in so many ways. And so you heard that theme throughout these applications, throughout the work that's to come. And we're just grateful as an agency here at DEED to be able to work with such thoughtful leaders as these, and just can't wait to see where these dollars go. This is a big day, and these are really important leaders for our state. And so we're grateful for all of them and for their work. Excited for round 2 next March, and we'll keep everyone updated on how these projects go. But until then, have a great day, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.